To have passion in life is everything.
What's your Everest?
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
that 200-inch buck?
They just look so impressive when they're wide.
Especially running away.
Welcome to this week's episode of Eastmans Elevated.
It's like a think tank for outdoor activity.
Sounds exactly like my hunting. Just always thinking about it, always trying to evolve it and make it better.
Here's your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's happening, guys? New episode of Eastmans Elevated here. So this week on the podcast, I have back on my buddy Dan Heavrin. Dan's a good friend of mine, and so we end up recording a lot of podcasts together because we hunt a lot together. And he's just a great friend and a great hunting partner and really knowledgeable and great instincts. And so we recorded this right in the middle of our Idaho hunt. So we're 5 days into it. We're still hunting deer, and we took a break in the middle of the heat, middle of the day, and sit down in the truck and record a podcast. So this is a fun one. We get to talk about what's happening in the beginning of the hunt, where we're at, where our mood's at, and what our plan is for the end of the hunt. There's a bunch of really good tips and tactics mixed in, and then you get to hear about what went on in Idaho in real time. So this was a fun one for me. Today's sponsor for the show is Matthews Bows. So I used the Matthews on this Idaho hunt. Man, this bow has been shooting good for me. I'm shooting the Matthews Halon 32 and a 6-inch brace, and this thing has just been lights out. I'm really getting used to the Matthews brand. This is the second one I've had, and the second year I've used it, and it's just shooting really good for me. Every day I go out on my practice sessions and throw arrows down range, and it's just amazing the groups I'm getting, the accuracy and the forgiveness, and going to that 6-inch brace, I'm getting so much more performance out of my bow and shooting a 450 grain arrow. At higher speeds and probably the fastest bow I've ever shot. But I just can't say enough good things about Matthews and the bows they're putting out and the forgiveness of them, and they really shoot well. I'm really excited about it. So thanks for Matthews for sponsoring the show. Over there at Eastmans, so we've got the new Eastmans Bow Hunting Journal just came out. In fact, I just grabbed it from the mailbox, and I've got an article in there about advanced stalking tips. I'm really proud of it. It's got some great tips, start to finish, about spot and stalking and just different theories on animals and how to move in close. I also had another article I worked on with Dan Picard, a really fun one, 3-fletch versus 4-fletch. So we kind of go back and forth and give our opinions on why we use what fletching setup we use and why. And then I saw another one in there about backcountry safety. I haven't got into it or read it yet, but that looks like a really good one, making sure that we're all keeping safe out there. Accidents can happen and things can happen, and it's something that's got to be, on our minds constantly on these backcountry hunts. And in fact, I'm hunting now. I've got one of my buddies over from Hawaii and another one of my buddies from Hawaii, Sean, that was on the podcast. He went hunting some extreme country there in Hawaii, and he had to share his water with a buddy that forgot to bring his water. And I don't know if that's what did it, but Sean's just in excellent shape and a great hunter and can just go for miles and miles. But he got really sick, like almost liver failure, and he's still in the hospital now. Just our thoughts are with him, as I have one of his Hawaii buddies out here hunting with me now, and it seems like he's on the mend and getting better, and kidneys are working good and liver's working good. But man, accidents can just happen quick. So anyways, that backcountry safety article is a good one to read, and something we all need to think about as we all have to come home to hunt another day, and a responsibility to our families. And so with this latest thing with Sean, it's really been on my mind, and just pulling for him to make a full and speedy recovery. And man, he's such a good guy. He'd just do anything for you. And so we're all thinking about him and getting updates daily. And so hopefully he keeps recovering. And with that, let's get this podcast rolling. So me and Dan in Idaho, we're hunting mule deer, and Eastman's Elevated. Here we go. Okay, I'm live here with my buddy Dan. We're in Idaho right in the middle of our hunt right now. Dan, how's it going? 95-degree heat, huh?
Yeah, it's hot out here. Hot and still. Yeah, kind of miserable, actually.
Yeah, so we're in the middle of our hunt. We're day 5 or so, and still hunting bucks. We've hunted a couple different units, and we kind of ended up in this unit, hunted this morning, and we're just trying to figure it out. So we're waiting for this afternoon. I think we got a good game plan for this afternoon.
Yeah, I think we got a good idea ahead of us, good vantage point, be able to see a lot of different country, open up the mountain range to us a little bit.
Yep. For sure, yeah. Get on that good master vantage tonight and look over this whole range there. There's got to be a buck come out there. And so, let's see. We started our hunt. We've had a rough time here in Idaho.
Yeah, it hasn't been one of our easier hunts, that's for sure.
Yeah, so, and we're used to going all over and hunting mule deer, and we both live in Montana, but we've hunted Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, I name it, and for mule deer, we probably hunted it. So this year, we didn't draw any tags. We went for Idaho, a state that we've never hunted, and just tried to learn it.
Yep. Yeah. Get a couple ideas. Look at a few maps and Google Earth it. And you scouted it a couple times, I think, and had a couple different ideas and different opinions out there of where to go and what units to try. We're kind of limited with a over-the-counter tag, but there's a lot of units available.
Yeah, there's a lot of units available, and yeah, I mean the scouting, all the country looked great, and the country we've been in this trip has looked great. But yeah, scouted a couple areas, didn't really see the numbers or the quality that we wanted to see, and so setting out on this, we just had enough days and go with our bows. And I convinced you gonna video for me for the first part of the hunt. My computer's making noises at me, but everything's still working here. So yeah, you were going to video for me for Eastmans, which was just great. Really helped me out, man. That was just awesome. You committed to that.
Yeah, it was a blast. I'd never really done it before, so it was good learning experience for me, and good to help you out. And then having a tag in my pocket, you never know what might happen.
Yeah, so then we have a tag, and then we'll switch off. So we started off the hunt, and we had different ideas of where we were going to head. A couple different units we were going to check out, and so we started off in one high country unit. Well, I guess to start the trip, we just got in and we were driving up, and some of the lowland country looked pretty good. There was a lot of alfalfa down there and some desert terrain, and so we figured we'd just pull off and just throw our glass up on the hillside and see what we could see in the shadows. I think you picked out an elk or something there.
Yeah, there's one cow. There's a lot of public land.
Yeah,
a lot of public land. So it's actually kind of cool. So it's like you got to take advantage of the public right off the hayfields. And, in Montana, any hayfield pretty much that's privately owned is going to have a deer or two in it. It's just the way it is.
Well, and we're flexible. We can hunt anywhere from the desert to the high country, and that's kind of the way we went about this hunt, is we could hunt anywhere where we found deer.
Yep, exactly. We don't care what the experience was, chasing bucks around with the camera and the bow in hand. I mean, who cares if it's high or low? It don't matter. It'd be fun, fun either way. So yeah, it was just pull off the side of the road, let's glass this, we're on public. That's, both sides of the road public. That right outside the hayfield's public. So it's like we might as well start glassing. We're in the hills.
Yep. So we pulled off, glass a little bit. Like I said, I think you saw an elk. There were some gorgeous ribbon cliffs in there that I thought there might be a muley buck bedded under. And then I went to start my truck, and the thing was dead. The dead battery. And it actually happened in about the best spot it could happen.
Yeah, I mean, we were a few miles out of town. We still had cell phone service, luckily. But yeah, we were a few miles out of town, and 90-degree weather, and no truck.
No truck. So that was the start of our trip after getting down here. And so we finally flagged down a guy after I could have been more than 30 minutes or so. And one rig drove by us all the way as we were
Didn't
waving
even slow down.
Yeah, hood up and the whole deal, but no big deal. This guy stopped, gave us a jump, went back into town, changed out the battery, and back out. But a guy should really have one of those battery jumpers with him. I think I will on every trip, because we use our truck as a home base a lot of times, and you just take it for granted that it's always going to start and always going to go. But if it doesn't, man, oh man, you could be miles from the nearest help or town or ride or even cell phone service.
I think it's easy to do. I mean, imagine getting all your gear out first thing in the morning. It's still dark. You're grabbing all your gear and make sure everything's good to go. Lock your truck, and you left the lights on inside the truck, or you leave something on, or you're sitting in the truck, you're listening to the radio too long or something. You don't even think about it. You go to shut your key off and hide your key and hike, and you're gone for 4 or 5 days. You come back to your truck just exhausted. All you want to do is get on the road, go get a burger and a beer, and your truck's dead.
Yeah,
you don't have cell phone service in 90% of your places you hunt.
I know it.
So it's like, I don't know. I think one of those jumper things is a good idea. I run one in my Razor all the time just to make sure you get a long ways back and battery goes dead, and so it'll jump it a few times out in the field. I wouldn't rely on it, but at the same time, it's better than nothing.
Yeah. Oh, just like a backup, even if it was just one jump. And they make them
Yep.
pretty small nowadays,
They do.
where you don't gotta carry this huge piece of machinery.
A whole
with
nother
jumper-
battery with you.
Yeah, exactly. But we went and got the battery changed out, and luckily enough, that's what it was. I hate playing that game. Is it the
Yeah.
battery or the alternator?
Yeah, exactly.
It seems like when you have power problems, that's always the game you're playing. But yeah, so we got a new battery in it. So then we were off on our hunt, and so we headed towards some high country, just kind of looking along the way at the lower stuff as we went. And high country is really our specialty. That's where we've hunted a lot of different bucks, and where we found a lot of our bigger deer that we've harvested.
Yeah, some great bucks in the high country. You know, we get to hunt pretty much all of it. 90% of it's going to be all public, which is. Ooh, did you get him?
I think I got him. We had a fly buzzing around in the truck here. So we're just in the truck. We got wires going everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Just
It's a
trying to
mess.
record just mid-hunt. We just cut this afternoon free. But yeah, you were saying the high country is where we do
it's,
good.
you know, it's public land. Usually you don't run into a whole lot of guys. You know, it's pretty difficult, you know, in this weather and the terrain to grab your backpack, put all your food, your water, all your gear in it. I mean, you're running 40-pound, 45-pound pack, and you're putting 6, 8, 10 miles in to gain an elevation. I mean, I think you and I gained probably close to 2,500 feet in elevation, probably. I mean, it was a pull to get in.
Yeah. Well, and I think we went pretty light too, but
Yeah.
we did have the camera. We're trying to capture the whole
Yep.
hunt and extra batteries and things you normally wouldn't pack in there. But yeah, I mean, you're probably right, just a shade under 40 pounds somewhere in there.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a pull in there and quite a few miles. And usually that hard work gets you away from the people, and it's. You know, you can walk in there, but you start putting weight on your back and start doing that elevation. It gets tough quick, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
the heat and the whole deal.
Yeah, it's tough on a guy. Tough on your feet. Come to find out, it's really tough on your feet on this trip for some reason. The terrain's a little, a lot of rocks, a lot of loose rocks. It was just a little bit different, Every place is a little bit different. Lots of water in the high country, which is really cool to see. But it was extremely dry, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. There's springs, there's ponds, there's lakes, but everywhere else, I mean, there hasn't been any precip very much. You can tell it's just super dry. The ground's cracked, and it's just super dry up there.
Yeah, no, you're right. A lot of moisture. I don't know if it's from the snow melt or springs, but there's a lot of creeks coming down and things. But you get up in there and it's really dry high country. You know, it didn't really have a bunch of the lush feed or anything. It did have good feed in places and good basins in there, but we got in there and started cruising around. We had to work pretty hard. I think it took us a couple days before we even saw our first buck.
Yeah, or deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had one place that we saw a ton of elk, ton of elk, ton of antelope. Everything was good there, and it looked like great country. Moving around, we just didn't see the numbers, so, pack up, move, hike back into a different place, and finally we did start seeing bucks.
That's right. I skipped ahead. So we checked out that high country
the first
unit.
one. Yeah.
And we saw a bunch of elk in there.
Yeah,
That's a good elk spot. It's
Yeah.
a general unit. Kind of wishing we traded in our deer
I
tags for
know.
elk tags. At that point, we'd seen a couple bulls up there and in really good numbers.
Yeah, bunch of elk, bunch of
Yeah.
cows. I think you watched one. It was bugling way up high. Yeah, it was cool. There's elk from one side to the other, pretty much down in the bottoms, way up on top. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yep.
Great to see the numbers up there. And then the weird part, like what you and I haven't really witnessed before, is those antelope on the very top of the mountains with the goats.
Oh, that's right.
That was weird.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen them up on top of the gravelies, but that's more like rolling grasslands where you'd
Yeah.
almost expect to see an antelope. This was almost like gnarly peaks,
Yeah.
where there was a mountain goat at the same elevation as the antelope.
Yeah, good numbers of antelope too.
Yeah,
There's a
they were
bunch
on
of
the
them up
top
there.
of the mountain, which was wild up
Yeah.
there, and there was a lot of low country where we did pick out a few antelope down and through there, but yeah, that big herd was way up on top of that gnarly peak, which I had never seen that.
Yeah, exactly. And we glassed it really good. We got a really good vantage point. Our vantage point from the truck was really good. We walked out and got another vantage point, and I felt like we covered it. We covered it with our binos. We covered it with the scopes. And when we saw, I think we saw everything. We saw all the elk pretty much. I mean, we saw tons of elk. We saw tons of antelope. We saw the mountain goats. But I think we pretty much covered it. We saw a couple does in there, so therefore we glassed it really, really well. If there was muley bucks in there, we probably would have seen them.
Yes.
You know, I mean, we glass pretty hard and pretty good at it. So
Yeah, pretty effectively.
yeah, exactly.
At the right times too.
Yeah, and it wasn't what we wanted. It wasn't what we thought we were going to run into. It was just kind of weird, you know. It's like, man, there should be a muley up on that feature, and there just wasn't. So really low numbers of deer driving in. You didn't see the does bumping them off the road when it was dark driving in, or even around the hayfields. We just didn't see the muleys. We didn't see the whitetail or the muleys.
Yeah, low numbers, and so we jumped ship and figured that's, you know, we don't want to be here. We got to get into the deer.
Yep.
Let's move to the next spot. And we moved to the next spot where, you know, I had a buddy that recommended a mountain range with, you know, and good friends and having a network of guys that you can trust. And I mean, he gave us a good tip on this mountain range and said that there's decent deer numbers in there. And so we went into this range and we looked at it on Google Earth and on maps and kind of figured out where we wanted to be. And then we went in there, and we went in super light. We went in about as light as we could go. Like I say, we still had camera gear and batteries.
We figured like either an overnighter or like maybe 2 nights up there. That's what we figured. Like, let's just go up there, let's check it out, put some miles on, and just see if this is the box where we want to hang out.
Yep.
And so yeah, packing light, you know, which is difficult with 2 bows and, you know, your tent, your bag, the camera gear, the batteries. I mean, there's, you know, you can pack the light as you want, but it's still going to be quite a bit of weight on you.
Well, in muley hunting, we always got to have a scope and a tripod.
Oh, yeah.
Usually we both have one. This time we shared one. And tried to split the weight a little bit. And I think, you know, we said overnight or 2 days. We had that option, but we also had the option to be in there for 3 days.
Yeah.
And then the way me and you go, you know, we get in there, and if it gets good hunting, we
you
try to
can
make our
push it.
food last just about as long as we can and just stay in there and hunt. Like, once you get in the deer, you got to stay in the deer.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta watch, see what they do, where they go. I felt like we fought a little bit of the sheep up there.
Yes.
A couple guys on horses moving sheep around up in the high country, which I ran into in Colorado and Wyoming here.
Yep. I haven't seen it in Colorado. Did we see it there?
No, maybe not in Colorado.
Definitely
we did
Wyoming.
Montana.
Yeah,
Idaho,
Montana, Wyoming, Idaho.
So most, you know, a few of the states we run into it half the time, and they had a big camp set up, and they were pushing sheep around, and so that's kind of frustrating, you know. I've been into Wyoming in the past, and I've scouted it, and it was just phenomenal scouting. It was great, and then, you know, go in there a couple days early before season, you go up there and you don't see anything, and all you see is sheep tracks, and you know, right where you scouted, it's just the whole hillside apparently was just covered in sheep.
They roll right through muley country, don't they?
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah, well, and I think you're referencing last year hunting Wyoming.
Yeah.
We had that happen a couple years ago when we hunted Wyoming. Remember, we had scouted that spot. We had seen that buck that we thought went 40. Well, the sticker buck that we thought went 220, 230. We also saw the one that we thought was close to 40 inches wide.
Oh, that's right.
It was a 190 to 200 inch deer. Didn't have the greatest forks, but he was just so wide, like cartoonish wide.
Yeah, he was. He just
a
sprawled
wild
way out.
one. Yeah, and then the sticker buck, and the sticker buck was a wild one. Like, I had hunted that buck 4 years earlier when I had the tag, and I had pictures of him. He had all the same stickers and had some more, but now he was like an 8-year-old mule deer or a 9-year-old mule deer. What a buck. That's one of the biggest bucks to date that I've seen.
Yeah, and then, you know, super excited to go hunt him and roll in there, and it's just blown out. I mean, the sheep love the same feed as those muleys do.
Yeah, those big alpine lush basins, and they feed those sheep through there, and it just disperses and pushes out those mule deer. And so that year in Wyoming, we went in there after scouting it and seeing a bunch of bucks, and like you say, they were blown out. I think we found one. What didn't we call him, like the ugly buck or something?
Yeah,
you remember that buck?
He was odd.
Yeah, he was a nice, I mean, he was a big looking deer, mature deer, but it just wasn't quite what we were looking for.
Yeah, I don't remember. He was either had something weird on his top, and it was just kind of a weird looking goofy buck. Maybe a like super crooked main beam, or I don't know. It was something just kind of
small
odd.
fronts, but not even that. He was just. I remember he had something
just
weird
ugly,
with him.
The ugly buck, the ugly duckling
there
buck.
isn't many ugly mule deer when they get big racks, but yeah, I remember that was our nickname for him or something. He had something weird going on. But we passed him, and we just couldn't find the deer in there that we had scouted. We went all over that place, spent a couple days. We actually ended up backpacking out of there and then backpacking into a new spot where we'd, you know, you got a good stock on a couple bucks, and I think I ended up killing one like the last day in there.
Yeah, it was the last day we were going to hang out, and you killed the buck that we watched, I think, from day one when we were in there. We watched him.
Yeah, watched him shed his velvet.
Yeah, that was awesome. What a great
We actually underjudged that buck. His ears were so wide. His ear tip-to-tip spread ended up being over 26 inches from tip to tip. And so we underjudged that buck quite a bit. And
we
so
guessed him at 170. We were like, that's a good 170 buck, which is
mid-170s. Yeah, it was a great buck. Like you say, be happy to take that buck. But
we were hunting some toads.
Yeah, in that area, we know it so well and have hunted it so much that we were holding out for some really good ones. That deer ended up going 190 inches.
Whoops.
That's the only time I've had him grow when you walk up to him. I mean, we've killed some good deer, but just his mass and his deep forks. Well, and he also shed his velvet, and so he was hardhorn.
Yep.
And in velvet, they're 40% heavier. They appear bigger, and so you're looking over all these velvet bucks, and you got this one hardhorn that you're underjudging the whole time. But yeah, it was a nice buck. But so, anyways, we headed in and went in light. I think we could have made it last for 3-4 days if we had to. 1-2 days if we couldn't find what we were looking for. And we got in there. We didn't find what we were looking for right away.
No, we moved camp a couple times and put on some miles. And I mean, we glassed some great features. We really did. We're on top of the world up there. I mean, high as we could get. We're up on the peaks.
Yeah, that's our element, though, isn't it? You get us in the high country. Like, we're going to find some deer back there. And we had already put forth the effort to get back in there. And so we just started glassing features in there and trying to find where there was some bucks that we could start getting into. And finally, that second day, we got on a good vantage point. We glassed there for quite a while. I would say like 20-30 minutes and didn't see anything.
Yeah, that's right. We sat there. I mean, we're up on the peak. I mean, sitting on the peak I think is better than sitting on like the saddles and stuff, because the peak kind of gives you like this basin to look at, and then if you're high enough on the very top, you almost have like a back basin you could look at too. So if you're hunting with two different guys, you can almost be kind of like back to back. You know, this guy's going to take over this feature, this guy's going to look on the other side and take over this feature, and we played the game where we glassed hard on both sides.
Yeah. Well, we almost had because we could see two basins.
Yep.
The peak we were on split two basins, so we could look at the left basin and the right basin, and then we could also look behind us in that back basin and look for them. And they're just lower deer numbers. What we found so far, we haven't really found the spot yet, but we finally started to pick out some bucks. We picked out a hardhorn, or the first ones we saw were two that weren't shooters, a 2-point and a 3-point.
Two velvet bucks.
Yep, two velvet bucks.
Super red.
And they were actually, like, I always glass for high country mule deer up high, but every place, every state you hunt, it's just a little bit different where you find them. To tell you the truth, I wasn't really focused where these deer were. They were more in the rocks with a lot of sparse brush, and they weren't in the Alpine Basin where we normally glass them up. And I'd pan over that or pan over some of the good high features, but to tell you the truth, I wasn't really focusing my glass on it. I think that's where we didn't see him right away.
Yeah, it took us a while because, I mean, there was really no feed right there. I mean, there
didn't look like much.
No, I mean, we walked through it, and it was just like, what are these guys eating?
Not much. I mean, there was a little bit of brush along the way in between those rocks, but no, there wasn't a lot of feed. But so we spotted the 2-point and then the 3-point, and then I heard you just classic, we've been hunting enough together where you go, oh, I got another buck, and you just, now you start to key in where they're at and where you're looking, and you picked out a buck with big fronts that was right in front of us. It was a hardhorn. He was a nice looking buck.
He was a good one.
He actually gave us a slip. I don't know where that thing got off to.
Yeah, he was a good one. I mean, we were definitely going to make a play on that guy. But you finally see in bucks, you don't want to be like, oh, there's one. All right, we're going to bomb off this hill and go make a play. It's like, no, we're finally seeing them. Let's take back and let's figure this out.
Take stock of what's going on.
Yeah, take a while. I mean, you can't just bomb in on a mule deer in the high country anyways. You got to wait a long time to get the wind right, make sure you know where you're going to approach, even if he is approachable. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Oh, they're such calculated, slow, methodical, thought-out stalks, aren't they?
Yeah.
So awesome. It's why we love to hunt them.
Oh, it's a blast. Yeah, if you can keep your eye on them, that's awesome. But a lot of times, these bucks, they'll go in early morning, and they're right when the sun hits their back. They're taking their time. Their heads down grazing, but they're heading to a bed. They're pointed in the direction of a bed.
We've seen them beat the shade up. Like the shade starts rising up the hill.
Yep. They're staying in it.
Yeah, they're staying in the shade, getting out of the sun as soon as they're in it. And a lot of bucks that we've hunted before won't even be in the sun at all throughout the day.
And if the sun does touch them, they jump up and they're gone.
Yep, exactly.
It's pretty wild.
Well, and you can always tell when a mule deer is going to get out of his bed because the sun will start to get on him and he starts to get hot.
Yeah, so you're watching this buck, good one that we're going to go try to shoot. And he finally does get in the trees, a little bit of timber, a little bit of brush and stuff. And he beds, and we're like, man, is he going to stay there? I don't know. How long are you going to stay? You're going to watch him bed twice? Most of the time, during the day, a muley beds at least twice,
Mhm.
correct? I mean,
Yep.
whether they just stand up and walk on the other side and bed back down, or sometimes they actually get up and they might go 40, 60 yards, 100 yards away to a different, better bed for the rest of the afternoon.
Oh, a lot of times.
And so
Yeah, we
that's
plan
when-
on their second bed a lot of
Yeah,
times.
and so you can't just get up and take the eyesight away from you. You got to keep eyes on them at all times. If we weren't playing the camera guy deal this trip, maybe it's let the guy that's up to shoot, let him start working in, and let the other guy stay there and keep eyes on it. And then you can work in if he does stay in position, or if he moves bed, then you can meet up with your buddy and be like, no, dude, he moved. We got to get up and get a different vantage and try to find him again. It's all about locating and making sure you know exactly where he's at. You cannot. I have had horrible luck trying to approach an animal in like a general idea. Like, I know he's in this area.
Oh, you're so right.
I think, he's in this set of trees, but I don't know where. Okay, well, I've tried it a few times. Well, guess what? I get busted 9 times out of 10.
You blow
if
them
not 10
out.
times out
If
of
you
10.
don't, you got to relocate them in close. You got to know where they're at.
You need his
Like,
exact position.
Yeah, even if you know the group of trees, our play then would be, okay, maybe we'll wait till evening till he comes out, or we'll try to predict where he's going to come out. But the moment you try to go in on a buck or a bull in a group of trees and you don't know his exact position, you're right. You end up blowing him out of there.
You do. I mean, he's going to see you or hear you or smell you before you have a chance to either see him and back out or remove. I mean, it's so easy to mess up on a muley.
Yep, you got to relocate them up close or know exactly where they are to make a play. So we see that buck with big fronts, so we're psyched. We finally got a shooter buck, and he's a nice buck. And then we spot another one with the over by those other 2 bucks, and he's kind of on his own, but kind of meets up with them. And that's a really good looking typical, a really good looking velvet typical.
Yeah, and he was in velvet. The other one was hardhorn. This one was velvet. Beautiful deer, just super typical deer. I mean, I never really got a super great look at him. I mean, I knew he had a good frame on him, and he's just a beautiful deer, beautiful alpine mule deer. Definitely a shooter. I would say, he was a great buck, beautiful, beautiful representation. So it's like, all right, now we might have 2 plays. But the problem with that is there's this little ridge that runs down between the big front hardhorn and the velvet buck. And so it's like when they're coming, they're working their way towards us, but towards us, several hundred yards away across
if not a mile away or more.
I mean, it's like they're not going to work all the way to you, but they're going to work in a direction where we're going to lose track of them.
Yep. And we tried to move down the ridge and keep the vantage point, but they just tucked in there too tight. And same thing with the hardhorn. We had a good view of where he was going to bed, but just like those bucks always do, they're just slippery in that country. And so he came down and got behind just a little tiny hill or bench, and we knew he was by the big dead tree, and I saw him. I was trying to follow him with the scope. And when we're watching these deer and we want to make a stalk on them, we're trying to watch their every move and watch exactly where they bed down. It's so easy to lose them in your glass. Or you're watching that deer, but then you kind of glass off looking for another one, and you go back and he can be gone. And so you really got to keep your eyes on him. And so I watched him to the final moment, and he was right behind this big dead old tree in a little bit of a hillside where we couldn't see him. And so at that point, we had seen a couple bucks that we were interested in. So we decided, this is our niche. This is where we got to go. And so we went way off trail. Yep. We both looked at the hillside and said, oh, yeah, we could make it down. I see some trees down there. That was a pretty gnarly one, wasn't it?
But, again, before that, we made a decision the night before, or the morning, the night before, we camped way below. We gained a lot of elevation to look at those bucks. So we made the decision before that to, hey, let's not leave our camp here. Let's put our camp on our backs. Let's get away from here. If we got to move, at least we'll have our camp with us, which is kind of difficult to do because you're trying to get up there early in the morning, and so you got to wake up even earlier, pack up your entire camp, get everything on your back, and now you're going up to the very top of the world to go glass with your camp because you never know. You might see some 3 basins over, so you don't want to go all the way back to camp, pack everything up, go all the way back. So we were pretty fortunate we had everything with us.
Yeah, well, usually if we can find mule deer in our area, we'll camp in that little spot and hunt around and go light around there until it's played out, and then like you say, we'll move our camp a lot of times in the middle of the day. But you're right, that was a smart move on our part. Is we got in there, got to the vantage point, we looked around, we didn't even find a deer that night, and so we said, boy, we're not camping here. So you're right, we woke up even earlier,
Yep.
made sure that we got our camp packed up, and then we had to climb to the top of that 95 or 10,000 or whatever that peak was to be able to glass with our camp, so we had our camp with us.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
So then that's when we made the decision. Everything kind of we thought was put to bed, or we can't see anything anymore. We know there's a buck here and there's a buck on the other side. So we knew we had 2 bucks to go for. So now it was like, all right, where should we set up camp? Where do we need to get another vantage point? And so we just came to a decision and decided to descend off the backside.
Yeah. So we descended off the backside. We dropped down. Everything in that country is loose. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, is that loose terrain. But we started down. It wasn't bad, and it takes a lot to make me and you nervous. We've been in a lot of gnarly country, and we trust our legs, but then again, you got your pack on and 40 extra pounds on you. Yep. But we started down, and it kept getting steeper and steeper, and pretty soon we were in some pretty gnarly, steep cliffs,
Vertical.
loose stuff, and it wasn't too bad. It was something definitely that
we picked it apart.
Yeah,
I mean,
we got down it.
We had a side hill for a little ways, and then go down the side hill again and go down, and we picked it apart. It took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take us.
It only got a little sketchy.
Yeah, a little bit towards it.
But so we made it down, and now we've separated ourselves from anybody else that can be in there, because now we're off trail. At least the walking distance, at least a couple miles, and down this huge slope where we lost 1,000 feet of elevation probably off this. And so now we're in the basin, and we pick out a pretty good camp spot between the 2 bucks, but not too close to them where they're going to catch our wind, or our wind's going to drift up, or they're going to hear any noise. Like, I'd rather camp just a little bit lower, have a safe spot, and then climb up every day to look at them. But a good view from our camp.
Yeah, good view from the camp, from definitely some places we haven't seen before. We camped, we were smart. We put ourselves in between water. We had a little tiny stream, little spring next to us, and then a little pond, lake deal on the other side of us. So that was kind of nice. It was good. Nice shady spot. So
doesn't always happen where you can camp near water in muley country. Like, a lot of times you're going without. And we were hunting so hard and so active on this deal. We were not drinking enough water. I know I'd said before that I can survive off 32 ounces a day. And I don't know if we were quite 32 ounces a day apiece, but we were pretty close, in between 32 and 50 ounces a day to keep running on everything.
Yeah, which we had to, because we had to make decisions. We had to get up there. We knew where a couple bucks were, like, in the area, like I said before, the general area, we knew where they were. So it's like, all right, we got to go super light now. So therefore, very little water, minimal weight as possible. Get up there, bring the scope, of course, bring the camera, get everything, and go try to put eyes on that buck.
Well, yeah, and so we camped near water so we could get fresh water, but we were up on the peaks the whole time, whether we were glassing or trying to make a move on those bucks. And we knew we wanted to make a move on those bucks, and so what we had, 32 ounces apiece, and it's like, well, this will make do. We're not going back down there to get water and then going back up to make a play. So now it's early afternoon. We know where these bucks had disappeared to, and so we started working up this center ridge in between them, and we're being real cautious and careful. We definitely don't want to jump anything off this ridge because it looks pretty muley too.
It does, yeah. There's a lot of little features that we didn't see before on the backside, and a lot more trees and stuff in there, and buckbrush, and so yeah, it was good. We just sneaking all the way up, getting elevation, and we had to climb quite a ways to get back up there.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We about went to the top of that peak, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think we did towards the end of the day or whatever. But so we got over there, and then we started glassing by the old dead tree looking for that buck with good fronts, that hardhorn, and we picked him out in there.
Yeah, we did. We found him. Almost got busted from the mountain devil bird, the grouse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was being kind of a brat. But,
so typical. Yeah, we walked right to the edge where we're going to start looking at this thing, and we're keeping to the shadows, and we're being really quiet, and all of a sudden, this grouse flies up like right in front of us.
Yeah, the buck's right there.
Yeah,
like,
and those bucks know those grouse too, and bulls too. All of a sudden they know something's up there and alert, and so we go, oh no, and so glassing down, and then we find the buck, and then sure enough, another one takes out of the brush, right by us there. And so it made that buck a little nervous, that hardhorn a little nervous.
He was looking on both sides of him. He was looking behind. I mean, he was active. You could tell he wasn't sleeping. He was looking around, sniffing, and trying to check it out.
Yep. But we just gave him some time up there, and he calmed down. Trying to get this fly that's in this truck here. But yeah, we gave him a little time. He calmed down, and And we watched him, but there really wasn't a good play to make on him. Not in his bed, and so our only play was really to wait till evening till he fed out, and hope he fed out in a good spot where we could make a go at him. We did have kind of like a plan to say, well, maybe we could make it down and around, circle around, and get in that hill and get in striking distance. And then when he comes out tonight, we'll be close enough to see him where he's going to come out, and then we can make a play on him. So that was kind of our backup plan.
It was, yeah. We figured we'd have at least a play on him. We'd at least get ourselves in position just in case we did get a correct win, and we could get in there. So I mean, we had a play. We had a plan.
Yep.
We backed out of there nice and slow because there's that other grouse that was sitting on the branch right above us, just staring at us.
Yes.
And so it's like, all right, don't do anything. Let's just back out of here and let him calm down. He did get up. We watched him get up. He did rebed again, right on the backside of right where he was. I mean, like 5 yards away. So at least we knew his exact position. And yeah, so we had a plan. But we also, in the back of our minds, were like, well, where did those other ones go?
Yes.
And so it's like, well, we're gonna go check that situation out too. You know, with this one's happy, not blown out. Let's go give the other ones a glass. See where they're at. See if there's a better play.
Yes.
You're always looking for the higher percent odds of actually killing one up there. So it's like that one. I'm not gonna give him really high odds. The hardhorn, the big fronts, that wasn't super high odds. I mean, it could be if the wind's correct when we get it down. But let's just see if we can find a different buck with a little bit higher percentage. So we decided to go see if we can find those other ones.
Yeah. So we went up and we just barely made the bench there, and we kind of expected them to be down lower in a different group of trees. We couldn't see it. It was like this fold of the land, this drainage that went kind of behind this hillside from where we were glassing from in the morning. And then as we started to climb up this thing, we couldn't see back in there until you made it all the way to the top. And so we just get over the top, and I see a buck and go, oh, freeze. And we had just got to the top of the hill. We were just in the shade of the tree right there.
One little tree right there we're standing next to, yep.
So we watch them there for a minute and get a feel for them, and they are just in the perfect place. They're grouped in, we see 2 of the 3 there, the one we want to shoot. And they're bedded just in the shade of like one tree there, and then there's some trees up above them. And I asked you, I said, how far do you think those trees are? And you looked at me and go, it's got to be 50 yards. I said, oh man, it looks like 70 to me. So we're trying to play it out and figure out how far this group of trees is from these bucks. And it looks like you could stick these groups of trees in between us and the bucks and sneak right down to them there.
Yeah, exactly. We had to back out of where we were. We had to use the tree to kind of sneak out of there. I was a little bit nervous because we only saw 2 out of the 3, so obviously we knew there was 3 there. So back out, take as much time as we needed. We had all day, so it's like, no, let's just creep out nice and slow. We got away with it. We backed all the way back down, went up and around, and then got that tree, aligned properly. I mean, we're actually pretty fortunate. We knew we were like, yep, that's our tree. Let's walk right to it. And we did. We started creeping in and dropped our packs, and I put my bow down and grabbed the camera and started rolling. So it was actually it was pretty cool.
Yeah. No. Oh, we did such a great job capturing the entire hunt. All the way from finding those things and just documenting. We put so many miles up to this point just to be able to find a buck to stalk. We've been all over that Idaho backcountry trying to just find these things.
Yeah, we're days into
so
this.
We're finally getting a stalk, and we know, this is a pretty good opportunity for us, and we know it's go time. And so, like I say, you grab the camera, I grab the bow. What a cool stalk. I mean, that's what you live for, is stalking those high country muleys. Had climbed all those distance in and around them, but this is what it's all for. This is the fun of the hunt. This is where you finally get to make your play, and it's hot out, and you got those crickets going all around you making a little noise. But that Idaho country is not easy to stalk in. It looked like it was a perfect stalk, but as we got going, everything was loose on that slope.
Well, what's that red leafy stuff? Before a few weeks ago, I bet it was green because there was some newer stuff up there that's green, but this stuff turns bright red. Yep. And it's like foil bubble wrap up there. You touch it and it just makes a ton of noise.
Yes.
It's just crazy.
Well, and so that brush, it's like cornflakes, or I don't even know. Like, you don't even got to step on it. You just brush against it, and it just
exactly.
It just totally makes a sound. And then the loose rock in there, that loose gravel wanted to slip underneath your feet everywhere, and it was such steep terrain that we really took our time getting in there. I mean, we got to the top, we glassed, made sure we had the tree in between us and the bucks, and then just started slipping in, just ultra quiet and ultra slow. And I mean, as cameraman, I mean, you're stalking right with me. We got to get 2 people into range, not just one. And so we really took it slow moving down there.
Yeah, I mean, the cameraman, hats off to the camera guys out there, because it's hard work. It's tough. I'm not going to say it's tougher than hunting, but it is. You're capturing everything. You're taking care of your own feet and your own noise. You're watching, what your hunter's doing. Plus, you're capturing everything that's going on. And, I mean, you got to be on your game. I mean, it's actually, it's pretty tough.
I'd say. So we started slipping in, and I just trust you. We've hunted so much together. You're such a good bow hunter and such a good stalker that I know you're making the right moves behind me. And then also I told you go, how do we make sure we get the shot on camera? I said, well, you know when I drop my rangefinder, you know when I do this or when I start drawing back, I'm just going to trust you got the shot, that you're over my shoulder, capturing everything with me. And so that was our game plan going down. And so we started to get in and get pretty close. We wanted to make it to the tree.
Yeah, our goal was to make it to the tree.
And we did find out that the tree was 50 yards away.
It was,
Yep, you called it right off the bat. And so we started slipping down, but all the while you're trying to keep an eye on these bucks through the branches. And then we had 2 of the bucks that fed out at different times.
Came right towards us.
Yeah, at one point, that 3-point came outside the tree, and I knelt down and told you to kneel down. We were still behind the branches, and it walked right out and fed right down below us, inside bow range.
Oh, yeah, right there. Yeah, he was just right down below,
Yeah, and we just waited and waited and waited patiently, and then he kind of went back and they bedded down, and we started creeping in again, and we're just getting close to this tree where I'm starting to range things and starting to get prepared for if something goes on or goes haywire on the stalk, which getting close to mule deer, you just never know. And we were so ultra quiet, the stalk was going perfect. Well, all of a sudden, we got those afternoon thermals, but the way you are in the mountains, that wind had swirled, and all of a sudden I felt it. I felt a little breeze on the back of my neck, and I actually felt it twice. This was the second time, and I started to get nervous. And so I had an arrow knocked. I was ready. You were rolling the whole time.
Yep.
We got down, and we had one little opening in the trees where I could see that nice 4-point bedded down there.
Like a little window in the trees.
Oh my gosh, it was a little window in the trees, yep, for sure, amongst this big tree that's in front of us, and it's covered high and low and then gets wider in the middle, but it is just a little opening in the trees. Well, and all of a sudden, all 3 of these bucks stand up, and it's high alert, and it's go time.
Yep.
And so I looked through that sliver of trees and thought, yep, I can make that shot, and clicked my rangefinder and got a range on that buck. And then, I centered in between that window of trees, got a nice broadside. Didn't check with you that you had the buck on film. Like I say, it was just all trust. Yeah. And so, and sent that arrow, and man, the arrow dropped in perfect. I mean, it looked good. It dropped right in there, hit that buck, and he went out the backside. You captured the whole thing, which was just crazy. And the buck went out. He should have tipped over dead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it sounded good. It looked good. We replayed the footage, and it looked like perfect shot. I mean, he was quartering away just enough that you slipped it right in there, right in the back of the ribs there. I mean, it looked legit. I mean, we both said, we looked at each other, thumbs up, dead buck.
Dead buck.
Yeah, he was gone. He was done.
And he ran out, and he just didn't play that hurt.
Nope. He was still alert, looking around like, what's going on, guys? I mean.
So this is the weirdest thing to us, is that this buck doesn't act more hurt, and he's keeping up with these other 2 bucks. And so then finally they get in the trees. He never does bed down, which is a bad sign. When a buck doesn't bed down, he's not that hurt.
Not hurting,
but we can see that hit on him, and if that arrow quartered into him, we're both saying, that buck is dead. There's just no way he's going to make it,
Well, he had a huge blood spot on his side, a huge blood spot. I mean, he was bleeding good. I could see blood dripping off it. I mean, he was hit good, it looked like.
Yep. And so we were pretty confident this buck was going to die, and so we waited for, God, it had to be an hour and a half, couple hours. We watched these bucks, and we're just baking in the sun.
Oh, man.
We've got no shade, we've got no nothing, and so as these bucks start to look away, our plan is to get in the shadow of this tree and then use this tree to get back to our packs, and then watch this buck all day long until he dies, and if need be, we'll come back in the morning and grab him. We just got to give him time.
Yep. Yeah, our goal was not to spook him, but we were baking in the sun. It was ridiculous out there.
And so we tried to slip out, and those things must have caught us on the edge of that tree or the edge of those branches moving. And all of a sudden, the bucks are going for it. We're a long ways away from him at this point. He's ran a little ways. Like, we got to be at least 500 yards from him, right, when we're trying to slip out. And so we try to slip back up there, And all of a sudden, these bucks, they must have caught our movement or something, and they're all on high alert because we just stung the one, and they start going, and that buck, we can see that blood spot on him, but he makes it to the top of the dang hill.
Yeah, he gains a lot of elevation.
Yep.
You know, a good hit. I mean, a deer or a bull, they're not going uphill.
No,
they're going down or to
and
find
bedding right away, and they're hurt.
This guy, he just pointed up and just kept on going up.
He just didn't act that hurt, which was so weird. But he did get to the top of the hill and bed down.
Yeah, his mouth was open. He's like, okay, I'm tired. I mean, he bedded right at the very top skyline. We could see him.
Yep.
He was just bedded there.
And so we started getting nervous, but we just kept telling ourselves we're going to get this buck, we're going to get him. Whatever it takes, we're going to follow him. And so we actually sent you back, Dan, for both the packs, and so you had to figure out how to bring 2 packs. But I took off on a run to try to keep up with that buck because he went over the top of that ridge. I didn't know how much he was going to be bleeding, and so I wanted to get to a glassing point where I could catch this buck and see where he went, or try to keep eyes on him until he bedded. And so I made it to the top of the ridge, and I just caught this buck going over another little ridge. I thought, oh man, he's traveling country, and so I'm starting to get a little worried, and I come back, or I watch this basin, and I never see this buck show up in this basin. And so, I figure he's right down below me, like bedded in a group of trees. I just can't see him. And so I go back and I meet Dan, and he's got both the packs. He had walked both the packs up. You had somehow hooked them together there where, you got him up there. So I meet up with Dan, and we just start talking, what's the smartest idea? Do we come back in the morning and then search these groups of trees down this drainage? Do we go grab that next vantage point and see if we can find them down over there? And so we watched that basin for, I don't know, probably 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, we got up higher. We started getting some elevation just to make sure we didn't spook anything again.
Oh, we cut blood up there.
That's what changed it all is you were very confident on saying, he went right down in here. And for sure. It made total perfect sense. We got up on the top. We're getting ready to sit down. And all of a sudden we see blood on the rocks up there. And we're like, what the heck did this guy do? So we went down off the other side, went down in the trees, then turned and went back up to the top again.
Yes.
It was just, and then it's like, all right, this isn't really making sense. So then it was like, all right, let's sit down, scratch the hedge for a little bit. And there's in the rocks and the rock slides up there, you can follow blood. But when you start getting in this sparse grass and just nothing really around, I mean, we're getting blood every 30, 40, 50, 60 yards maybe, and it's not much. He bedded down on top. We checked the blood there, and it was not much there either.
No, I know it. It was so strange for where the hit was, and so we just kind of kept tracking where this buck was headed and where there was blood, and tried to grab vantage points and find him. And we burned pretty much the majority of the day and couldn't find this buck. And man, was he traveling drainages. And we did see another hardhorn deep fork buck down in this bottom, but we kind of circled around and looked for this buck. And really, we were walking back to camp at the end of the night. We hadn't turned up this buck again. Yep. We didn't know where he had headed, but we didn't want to go bushwhacking and have him jump. It's like, let's just give him the time. I know we don't know exactly where he's at, but at least tomorrow we'll know he'll be dead. He'll be dead overnight. He's gonna die. So there's no point in really trying to figure this out. Let's regroup. And so we took a shortcut back to camp. We rolled down on this ridge, and where that hardhorn was, we wanted to get a closer look at him for me, because I'm up next with the bow. So we were both confident you got this buck. I mean, it was a great shot. Yes.
And so it's like, all right, well, time to switch, eventually the next day or whenever after we collect this buck. And so we just, watch him a little bit, know where he's at, and just start walking back, and then we go over this little ridge, in that buckbrush and just trying to pick our way across, and then just freeze. I freeze and I look at you and I'm like, holy crap. Right there, 20 yards. This buck stands up. That's the one. That's the buck right there.
Yeah, walking back the direction we hadn't been glassing direction.
He circled all the way back around.
Yep.
Went all the way to the top, then down off the other side, and then back up to the top, and then all the way around back to where, like, he was pointed in the basin that we shot him in. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's where he was heading back to.
It was a lucky break catching him, and we were confident we were going to find that buck. But the next day, like you say, you don't want to dive down and bushwhack and jump that buck. Yeah. Give him more adrenaline. Have him go where you can't find him then, and so you're limited. All you can do is kind of glass from the top, and and try to kind of make sense of what's going on. But yeah, we had no idea he was that direction. But yeah, we jumped him out of his bed, and it had been 5 hours since I hit that buck or something.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Jumped him out of his bed, and he ran, and so. we instantly made a game plan. Okay, Dan, you go right. You watch that opening. Make sure he doesn't come across there. Go check for blood. I'm going left all the way down to that bench where I can glass back up and see where he went.
Yep. Both of us on a vantage point.
Yeah,
so we
just
could cover it.
trying to keep eyes on this thing so we can recover him. And I start going down to my spot, and I look down there, and all of a sudden I see that buck, and it's our buck. Yeah, it's our hip buck, and he's out on that point, and now he's hurting. He's sick now.
Yeah, so
I can tell he's hit hard.
I gave you the 10, 15 minutes. Nothing came out. I saw a few other does run out of there, and I gave it some time. And I didn't know if you had eyes on him or not. I couldn't see you. I knew where you were going to be, but we had no communication, nothing. So I went back to his bed to just get an idea. It's like, hey, maybe we can actually track this thing. So I checked his bed. Huge pool of blood there, like dead pool of blood. I mean, it was there.
Yep.
And then I went down probably 15 yards to where he ran down, and yes, there's blood, big bloods here, bloods on this sagebrush. I mean, I was like, yeah, we can track him if we have to. But the plan was meet up with Brian. He's got advantage on the other side. So I back out of there, and I start rolling the rock slide over, and then I catch you. You're waving at me, and I'm like, what? And you're telling me just be quiet and slow down. So I slowed way down and snuck down to you, and you had eyes on him or watching him. He was bedded way below us, just bedded again, and he was bedded like a dead buck.
Yeah.
He was
hurt.
Yeah, he was spent.
So yeah, we just decided you don't know what the right move is to make, and it always depends on the shot, whether you go in, put another shot on him, or you wait him out till evening. And it was like, man, I'm gonna finish this deal. I don't want him to get up again in the night and go to a different group of trees. And so I snuck up, got another arrow in him, and killed him. And man, it's just so awesome to be able to get it done on that buck. But we had some lucky breaks on that thing. So then we started looking at where the hit was. Like, why did that buck not die in sight? It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I think I've had it happen one other time to me. But I shot and hit that buck right where I wanted to, like right on the liver spot. Like, you want to shoot right in the middle of double lungs, but hit him about on the liver.
But he was quartering away.
Driving right up through him.
Taking everything
and
out.
That broadhead centered a rib.
Yep.
And I think it busted that rib, but it also bent that broadhead, and bent it all the way over, which, I mean, I'm shooting a 450 grain arrow, and this is one of the fastest bows I've ever shot. But I hit that rib, and I must have just centered it where it didn't glance off or anything, and it busted the rib, but the arrow went in and came out on the same side of the buck.
Yeah, exactly. So it hooked in like a fish hook. It went right in on the skin, right next to the rib, and I think, like you said, broke that rib, and then went down just maybe an inch, couple inches, and then came right back out.
Yeah.
So that arrow, that's why it was so loud when you hit him. That arrow actually hit so hard, and then the shaft of the arrow came up and smacked him on the side when it was coming out.
Yeah, no, it fish hooked him. Like, I think it came down, I'd say like maybe 3 or 4 inches it came out.
Hole in a hole.
And so, it just got 2 holes on him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, and so basically killed that buck with almost a flesh wound, but he was feeling sick because we let the pressure out of his chest, and he was getting sick late, and I hate to have a buck suffer that long, but it's bow hunting, and sometimes stuff happens, and you can't control everything.
You did the right move. You watch him. You're like, you know what? I got to go put another arrow in him. And so I was like, yeah, I got a great vantage. I'll tell you, if he bails off the backside forward, I had it completely covered. So you snuck down in there and got in range, got super close to him, and made a perfect shot. I mean, he barely stood up and fell over. He was dead.
Yep.
So I mean, it worked out perfect. That was the right call.
Yeah. Oh man, it's just so awesome when it comes together, and to have that weird thing on that arrow happen, but to have us persevere and track that thing down and get to those different vantage points, and then just get a little bit lucky too, and jump them up coming back down to camp, and hopefully we could have made sense of the blood the next day and tracked him down and found him, but I do think it was a lucky break, but spooking him where we did, walking back to camp, and then getting him. But just an awesome wide 4-point, just
great
a beautiful buck. Idaho buck.
Good fronts, good backs, super wide. I mean, yeah, he was no ground shrinkage whatsoever. He was bigger than what I actually thought he was. He's just a gorgeous buck.
Great buck.
Yeah, so
man, I'm so amped to be able to get that done, and the footage and the whole story, just that we've told here on this podcast, but to be able to capture it all in video and get all those different shots of the miles and the hiking and glassing the bucks and trying to capture the excitement, and then the over-the-shoulder stop. That's got to be one of the coolest scenes I've ever seen. So I drew back on that buck. You knew it was happening.
Yeah, it was good.
So there's 2 controls on the camera, and like I say, Dan's good at everything he does, but this is our first, we've messed around with camera work before. I've videoed a couple hunts of yours and tried to capture things, and I've had you on the camera before, but this is the new Eastman's camera or whatever, and so it's got controls, but it's got 2 sets of controls. It's got a handle and then it's got a pinky. And so as soon as I drew back, you went to get on the buck, or as soon as I ranged him, you went to get on the buck.
I was like, all right, it's go time. And so I'm focusing over your shoulder. So when you drew, I was right behind you. So when you drew, your bow came up. So where I was looking, your bow took my lane. You stole my lane from me.
Oh, your video lane.
Yeah. And
okay.
so I was like, oh, well, I can't really move. And so the only thing I could do is just like core strength and just my upper body just lean out to the side just to get around your bow. But you got to remember, we're looking through a little window in a tree. So it's not like I can take a step over, then I won't see anything. So it's like I got to get just around your bow while you're coming up to full draw, refocus on that buck, get on that buck, bump my button, and then it unzooms on it, and then I got to pretty much start over while you're going to full draw and capture it perfectly. I mean, capture you coming to draw with you can see the top of your bow coming to full draw, and then zoom past you and get right on that buck perfectly. I could see, I think 2 out of the bucks were standing right there.
Yep.
2 out of the 3.
Yep.
And just zoomed in right on it so we could see a nice execution shot, and it worked out perfectly.
Oh man, it was
Got
thread
whole
the needle
stalking.
on the shot and on the video deal, and just weird how it hit that rib, but the videography on the shot and where the arrow hits and the way it drops in, and you can see those fletchings the whole way, you know, and then drops through that little opening. But yeah, I mean, talk about thread the needle. Like I say, with the camera and with the bow, to be able to get it done on a buck like that is just incredible. We hadn't seen that many. That was our first stock.
Yeah, and another thing is, this is a new thing for me, videoing these hunts and stuff, and it's like, well, guess what? We both said to each other, yeah, dead buck, he's going down. But then he went up out of the mountain or the rocks and cliff. He climbed all the way up there, got into the top, and was bent on their side. And then we started second guessing it. We're like, what the heck? So it's like, all right, finally, he goes over their side. Let's take a second. Sit down, pull out the camera, rewind it, and just make sure nothing weird happened. Make sure you didn't hit a branch, or make sure whatever. And the video footage looks like a perfect shot.
Yeah.
And so we were like back to being confident. Yeah, that's a dead buck.
Yep.
So
and
then,
it was a money shot. That's
it
got to
was.
be like a
We've
1 in
both-
100, 1 in 1,000, 1 in
Yep.
and I usually ribs you glance off of. I think I had it one other time on a bull that I hit right in the lungs, and I centered that rib, and my fletchings went straight up in the air at this weird angle, and I didn't get any penetration on that bull. And so I think it can happen, but it's super weird. I definitely don't see it very often. Between me and all my buddies, it's just like a 1 in 1,000 chance that you
wild.
center a rib.
Perfect.
And good kinetic energy on my bow. It's got to be shooting 70, 75 kinetic energy. It's fastest bow I've ever shot. 450 grain arrow. That's going to hit that deer hard.
And it wasn't even that long of a shot. I mean, it was where you wanted to be on that shot.
Yeah,
we
for
snuck
sure.
in close. It was great. It was perfect.
Yep, just one of those deals. Bow hunting isn't perfect, and I think a lot of times you never figure out what happened on that shot. You just see where it hit, and then you don't find that buck because you didn't get a hard enough hit on him, or he didn't do enough damage, or he gets away, can't follow the blood, and this buck went. He had to go a mile, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, I don't. And then when we lost track of him, who knows what he was doing? I just can't believe he came back. I mean, he would go away from us and then double back and come back on himself. It was wild. You know?
We'd pick up blood in weird spots, but he was tough to track. Maybe the next day we could have put it together, but we were trying to get to those good vantage points, trying to just find him or his buddies again, and just try to keep eyes on him to try to recover him. And he was hurt bad there in the end, and he was going to die whether we left him there that night or whether we got him. But you also leaving those things overnight and with a gut shot, that's pretty risky too. And not that we knew that it was going to be in the guts or anything. And like I say, I think I glanced liver right in through there. That's why he was bleeding so hard right in through there. But yeah, you just never know. And so you're just trying to play your smartest play and your best bet. And sometimes you hit those things, like if you hit something in the shoulder, like you got no other option. You got to try to get another arrow in him. It's not going to kill him. So if it's a mortal shot or a fatal shot, whether or not you got to get a follow-up arrow or not get a follow-up arrow. And there in the end, I just wanted to finish the deal off and get done with, and I knew I could stalk up there and get another arrow in him. But how awesome is that? Just extreme gnarly backcountry and able to get a buck down and capture the whole thing on film, which is really cool for me. I'm new to it as well, and this has always been my dream, is to team up with one of my really good buddies, I've always had you in mind because we've always hunted together, and be able to capture some of these adventures we do. Not only that, but just all the rough terrain we go through, all the miles, the trials and tribulations, pick up the highs and lows of the hunt, and really try to tell the entire story. And I really think we accomplished this. I think this is the best work I've ever put together.
Start to finish, it worked out great. Yeah.
Oh, just awesome.
Yep.
So yeah, get the buck taken care of. Fresh back straps in
Yeah,
camp.
we ate good that night.
Yeah, so went back, fried up some back straps that night, and just kind of took in the whole experience, and got the meat hung up in a nice group of shaded trees so we could let it cool really well. And so we let it cool, and then the next day we made a hunt around. Actually, we did a ton of miles the next day. We just let the buck hang. You can buy yourself a day or so. It's getting cool enough at night up in that high country. And so we went and hunted, and back to look for your buck. We switched positions, and now I'll run the camera, and you're going to hunt.
Yeah.
And so went and looked that next day. Gosh, we covered a lot of drainages and a lot of miles.
Yeah, we got some great vantage points. We went to some different places we haven't been, like some other bowls, back basins, and glassed hard. I mean, we perfect time of the day to glass, and it just back to extremely low numbers again. We just weren't picking up what we were looking for.
I think we saw 3 bucks that morning, and none of them were shooters.
Yeah, just little guys running around, and yeah, I mean, it was just kind of it felt dead up there. It just felt like, and we didn't even go through that. That was all like virgin ground that we haven't even been through yet.
No,
so
nobody had hunted it yet.
Yeah, so it was kind of weird. I mean, it was like, it looked great. It should be holding bucks. We never disturbed it the day before, and nobody has. And so, yeah, we gave it a good hunt, and just sat down and talked about it when we got back to camp, and checked on your buck and make sure everything's good, and just talked about it. It's like, well, I mean, we just covered the main basins where we want to cover, and there was, some other hunting pressure and stuff up there. We had a guy on the back of us, our second choice where we were going, but that was already a guy hunting back there. So it's just like, well, how many other places did we got? So we made the decision. It's like, well, we still haven't even made it to some of the units that we wanted to hunt. We haven't even seen them yet.
Yep.
So we made it, we got to get this buck out anyways. It's getting hot. The meat felt really good. It was nice and cool in the bag. So we took down camp and loaded the packs and got some footage and some good pictures, and decided, you know what, we need to regroup anyways. We need to get this buck on ice, and I think we made the best decision. I think we're good.
Well, yeah, we had to come out, get the buck out, get him on ice, and then our decision was: do we come back into this spot? Yeah. Do we go to a different spot in this range, or do we go to another spot? And so yeah, we decided to come to this other choice we had, just see if we can find some better numbers and some better bucks. And so got the buck on ice, got everything taken care of, and here we are still hunting. So tonight we're going to go make a play, and I think we got a really good play. We're going to look over this. We've got a really good vantage point. We got to hike up there in 95-degree heat, but we're going to get up there, find some shade, and then just start picking that mountain apart with our glass.
Yeah, set the scopes up, and then and just kind of hang back and try to set yourself up so you can. The more ground you can see, the better. So I think we got a heck of a vantage point, and see what lives here. We got here last night, so we had this morning in a different place. We saw some deer. You spotted some right away, and this morning before the even sun came up, it was weird. We had thermals. The heat waves through the scope were so bad, even first thing this morning, and we knew they were deer, and so it's like, well, they're deer. How they were acting, the location, they're up pretty high. We're like, well, they definitely. Chances are they are bucks, and so we decided to pack light and head up there, and come to find out they were does. So it's like, by the time we get back, need to regroup and figure it out. So we're just going to move around and learn this country, and that's what one of the things Brian and I do really well is we don't care if we got to move camp every single day. It don't matter. It's great to learn different country. I've never hunted this spot before, and so yeah, the more we learn, I think the better off we're going to be.
Yeah. Gosh, I just love learning new country, and so. Yeah, we got a great game plan tonight. Hopefully we locate a buck, and if he's close enough, we'll get a play, and if not, we'll set up in the morning. And so, yeah, we got a couple more days, 2-3 more days. We'll try to hunt and get your buck, and then the neat thing about Idaho too is we can always come back late too if it doesn't happen. But
exactly.
But I've got faith. I've got confidence. We're gonna see some bucks and get some more plays here. We just got to keep working hard at it.
Yep.
Keep covering country, and whether we got to go up here we're gonna go up for a day hunt and check it, but we may have to load up the backpacks when we get back and do a night approach up there and go sleep with the bucks, or whatever it takes to be into them and get some more stalks and try to get another one killed.
Yep, we'll figure it out. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, man, I can't thank you enough. Just such a good hunting partner, and thanks for helping me out with this film deal and helping me capture this whole thing. And so, we'll try to turn up some bucks and try to finish this thing right.
Nope, sounds great. Thanks, man.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Fun episode with Dan. Fun to do it just right in the middle of our hunt. Just really cool of Dan to commit to videoing for me. Just got some awesome footage. I just can't wait for Eastmans to put this together And just weird stuff goes on when you're bow hunting. That center and that rib and having that arrow go in and come out the same side, especially when you're set up so dialed and you got everything tuned right. But that 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 chance, sometimes weird things happen, and all you can do is just give it your best effort and follow up that buck or follow up that blood trail and try to find the end of it. And this time we were lucky enough to recover this buck and figure out what had happened and the reasons why. But yeah, just really fun. I mean, tough hunt there in Idaho, finding the numbers. So to close out the hunt, we got on that good vantage point. We ended up hunting for another 2-3 days, and we were down there hunting the desert like we talked about. So a little bit different unit, and we were flexible looking for Dan's buck, and we got up there to that vantage point, and we kept seeing elk. And the one night we saw this giant 350-inch bull that came out feeding by himself in this little draw. And so finally, Dan decided that he needed an elk tag. It was over the counter down and through there, and so we drove all night or a few hours one night to make it to Walmart to get him an elk tag. And so he ended up, we were going to stick a bull in there because, gosh, there was a bunch of them running around in there. And that 350 bull ended up not coming out in the same spot, and ended up being a couple guys that were sitting on the vantage point that must have seen him too. But there was enough bulls around there that we just started kind of hunting elk and looking for mule deer. And we saw a couple smaller bucks, but nothing Dan wanted to put his tag on, especially since he can hunt it late in November and we can go back. So I'll go back with him in November, and I'd love to learn more about that rut in Idaho hunting and see some of those bigger bucks. But so we started hunting elk, and we only hunted them for 2.5-3 days there, but we did get on a really nice 6-point the last night we were there, and it was getting late and low light, and we got to about 60 or so, and Dan ended up missing that bull, giving him a haircut across his back or something there. Tough shot with low light. It was right in the last few 10 minutes of shooting light or whatever. But we did get an opportunity at a 6-point bull, and he was a nice wide looking bull. Had to go 310, 320 anyways. And so it was fun hunting there with Dan. I would have loved to see him fill his tag there, fill that elk tag. And he was so close. Like I say, it was just low light where, your peep and your sight don't quite line up right, or, who knows? It's a game of inches in bow hunting, and any one of us can miss. But anyway, so we ended up having a good trip coming back. We had to get that buck back and get him processed. But really fun hunt with Dan. And like I say, I'll go back with him in November and go down there and hunt. And then also with the elk, I'll help him here in Montana elk and help him get a nice bull. And then we might even shoot back down to Idaho if we get a chance for elk as well. We'll just see how it goes. And right now it's just that fun time of year. I'm hunting so much, trying to record some podcasts here and there. And like I say, I got one of my Hawaiian buddies, Robin, out here, and we're hunting elk. We got on a good 6-point yesterday morning, and kind of coyoted the herd and had him at like 70-80 yards in front of us. Really nice 6-point with about 10 cows, and chased him for about an hour and a half. And I don't know if the wind swirled or that cow may have hurt us down below, but we got barked at and got busted, and they got out of there. But close call. And talking to my buddies, they're just into elk right now. I know my buddy Ryan has been really close on some good bulls, and I want to get him on the podcast and record one. But yeah, I'm hunting with Robin, my Hawaiian friend now, and we're gonna go backpack in. So I'm getting this podcast out and load up the backpacks with about 2-3 days worth of gear. We're going to go in light and see if we can't find the party of elk and get him his first elk. This is his 3rd trip hunting elk, and he's had some close calls, but I really want to see him fill his tag. So just that really fun time of year where you're hunting for yourself and hunting with buddies and just out in the woods and getting the legs some work and hopefully bending back the bow limbs here and there. Today's sponsor, speaking of bow limbs, is Matthews Bows. Again, guys, I'm just so impressed with this Matthews Halon 32 6-inch brace. They're just building a great bow. It's just super accurate for me and forgiving, and I go out practice sessions. My groups are really tight. Just really happy with this bow. It's fitting me really well, and I'm really starting to get used to the Matthews brand. So I got a ton of confidence walking around with this bow. I know it'll do its job as long as I do my job. But thanks to Matthews for sponsoring the show. Again, over there at Eastmans, we got that Eastmans Bow Hunting Journal. I got a couple articles out in that one, and there's another one on backcountry safety there, and then coming out in the next Eastman's Hunting Journal, I got an article in there as well. So they're keeping me busy writing these things up, and it's just this time of year where I'm getting all my content for these articles coming up and getting just a ton of good pictures of my buddies and me around the hills and just doing what we love to do, chasing animals. And it's never easy. It's always more difficult than you think when you get there. But that's part of the fun is the challenge. And so we're just embracing the challenge and embracing the struggle and out trying to get into them. So just super fun. I'm gonna do this hunt with my buddy Robin, and we're gonna backpack into a couple spots, and then I'm gonna go on my elk hunt here the 22nd of September to the 2nd of October. And I got that same cameraman I had last year, Dalton, and we're gonna try to capture the hunt and try to go for a good bull. God, I'd love to kill a bull 320 or better. And so, we're just going to hit the hills and keep putting the miles on, and body feels good and get work taken care of. But gosh, just that fun time of year. So I hope you guys are getting some adventures out in the field, and hope you guys are bending those limbs back as well. I know I've seen some photos come across, and some guys have messaged me with some success they've had. And so just so happy for you guys out there working hard and gathering information, and then getting chances at these animals and being able to put a good arrow into them. So congratulations to you guys, and keep the messages coming. I just love seeing them. I love seeing you guys be successful on good critters and just that fun time of year. I'm just gonna get back out. I'm loading up the backpack here as soon as I get done with this, and headed in the mountains, and hopefully get into some more rutting action. It's been just a little bit slow around here. Ryan was telling me the bulls are still bachelor herded up, and that bull I found the other day, he was rutting those cows pretty good, but he didn't bugle once. Not in the night walking up there, not in the morning chasing them. And so like to see some more rutting activity. But it sounds like we got a little weather change coming, a little cold, and a little bit of rain, some moisture. So hopefully that'll knock down the smoke here and get these bulls fired up and rutting hard, and we can get robbing that bull. And again, just thinking about my buddy Sean there in Hawaii and him healing up. Just feel for him and his family, and we're all pulling for him, and hopefully just keeps continuing to recover and get better. Be safe out there, guys. I mean, things can happen, and I don't know if it was the dehydration, because Sean's hunted some tough hunts, and he hunts in Hawaii nonstop. So it's like some other factors, contributing factors that are going on, or something really weird with his body. But he's in good care there. They flew him to the big hospital, I believe on Oahu, and so he is recovering, and we're just pulling for him and thinking about him nonstop, and for him and his family, and just hoping he makes a speedy recovery here. So he's in my thoughts as well. That's the episode, guys. Thanks a bunch for all the support. Sure appreciate it on social media, the downloads, the iTunes review. We really got this sound dialed in. I feel good about that. God, that was bugging me when I couldn't get that consistent, good audio quality I was looking for. But through YouTube's and hours of research and talking to different sound people, and Eastmans have helped me out, I think I'm finally dialed in on both my Skype recordings and my live recordings. So gosh, it's just like a weight off my shoulders to make sure that I'm getting out quality audio to you guys. And I just want to continue to get you the best content out there to make you a better hunter and to get you fired up and motivated to be out in the hills. And so keep hunting hard, guys, and make sure to send me a picture if you guys are successful out there, and I'll check in with you guys next week.